are joined by Gernot Gollner, head of retail at OMV in Austria. OMV is a global energy and chemicals group with a retail network which spans 10 countries across Central and Eastern Europe. Gernot will be talking with Dan and I about their VIVA store format, their retail partnerships, their new unmanned fast lane petrol station formats, which feature the autonomous Unibox and Bistro Box. So welcome, Gernot, head of retail at OMV in Austria. Welcome to our show.
Yeah.
Now, Gernot, we've known each other for a long time, haven't we?
Yeah, that's true. We know already each other for several years. I joined several of your sessions, of your tours. And it was always nice to see other markets with other convenience cultures and histories. And there are always some innovations which we take home and evaluate if we can implement that.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, the retailers that travel and look for ideas from outside of their market, so the retailers that really probably innovate faster, in my experience. So, you know, well done for thank you for supporting some of the things that we've been doing in the last since COVID, really, and all over Europe. And it's we've certainly seen some interesting retail. How are things at in the Austrian market?
Things are quite okay. We have right now a bit of a fuels challenge, let's say, due to the political difficult situation and due to an issue which we have in our refinery. But in general, convenience business is coming back, a bit under pressure because of the price increases, which are all over, you know, in most of the markets, different from country to country, but this is how it is. But it's still a growing market, so I'm positive.
Very good, very good. Well, you're going to tell us a little bit about the OMV business, and we've got some exciting discussions, you know, which we'll get into more detail about some of the, I guess, strategic issues that, you know, our industry is you know, thinking about at the moment. But we'd love to get a bit of a background on the OMV business and what you've been doing.
Good. Yeah, talking about the OMV group, we are a 36 billion euro turnover company with 22,000 employees. So we are actually Austria's largest listed industrial company. And as a global energy and a chemical company, we intend to become a leading provider of sustainable fuels, chemicals, and materials by 2030, with a clear focus on circular economy. So this is very strong, embedded now in our strategy, and to deliver on our promised target to reach net zero in 2050.
Yeah, very strong. Often with companies in the DACH region, it's a very important part of your strategic thinking. You know, sustainability focus is very important to you, isn't it?
Yeah, if I may continue, we have 3 pillars. I showed it on this graph. So we have chemicals and materials. There we have our strong company, which is our subsidiary, Borealis, which is one of the world-leading providers of advanced and circular polyolefins solutions, and European market leader in base chemicals, fertilizers, and plastic recycling, so strong in that. Refining and marketing, this is where our business is in. We produce and market fuels as well as feedstock for chemical industry. We operate 3 refineries in Europe and hold a 15% stake in a refinery joint venture in the UAE. And we operate around 1,800 filling stations in 10 European countries. Exploration and production, in 4 regions we're active: Central and Eastern Europe, Middle East and Africa, North Sea, and in Asia Pacific. We're a 486,000 barrels a day company with a strong share in natural gas, which is around 60%. And it includes even these gas storage facilities in Austria and Germany, which are right now at the moment getting very important due to these problems with Russian gas.
Absolutely.
So that's the overview about the group. Yeah, retail. Concerning retail, we're present, as said, in 10 countries. It's Austria, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Slovenia, Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia, and Moldova. There is still a small network in Germany, because we sold actually the big OMV network to Eurogarage.
Yeah.
OMV stations stand for best performance fuels in the region. We stand for modern, equipped, and well-maintained coverage facilities. We care a lot about coffee, and we use only our own brand, VIVA coffee, with state-of-the-art equipment, and we focus a lot on trainings and things like that. We are benchmark in the countries where we operate when it comes to freshly prepared sandwiches, as well as bakeries and pastries. And we operate convenience stores, but we come to that later in the presentation, the next minutes. And as good as possible as well, we try to source locally. Yeah, whenever this is possible, do it in the country and create a bit the marketing around that. One more important thing to add here is operations, because sometimes it's easy to build a nice asset and a nice design of a site, but operations is really in our focus, and here I would call us benchmark as well in most of the countries.
Yes.
Which is a thing which is getting more and more difficult because of the labor market, which is quite difficult in the majorities of the countries. Yeah, this is a design, a picture of the design, which we call VIVA 13 Plus. The VIVA itself as a brand is already 30 years old. There was a strong investment push like 16 years ago when we launched the VIVA 606 format, named by the year of the when it was implemented first time, which was really outstanding. On the other hand, a bit expensive, I have to say, because it changed a lot in the building.
Well, that looks just going back to that, yeah. Nick. I mean, it looks tremendous. And which of your markets do we find that format in, Gernot?
You'll find it in all our markets, but no more in Germany and not in Moldavia, but in all other markets you find that. So whenever we are building an NTI or do a major reconstruction, you will find these. This is already involvement as well. So it was initially a bit more anthracite and a bit darker. And 3-4 years ago, there was an evolution done. We got a bit brighter, a bit more wood, a bit more earthy. And thing is, it's very flexible. It's quite lean in costs, which is important as well. And it's still, if you go to this, the other picture, there is still this corner, yeah, that one, where we always try to separate the gastronomy, the food service a bit, and we always kind of put some comfortable seating in there. Because this is what we see as our strength as well. Yeah, here you go.
Yeah, and it's a very high quality feel, isn't it? Looking at the flooring, the seating, and even the coffee cups. Yeah,
this is something which is, I would say, Austrian. Yeah, there is this silver tableau with the nice ceramic cup and the underplate and the silver spoon and the glass of water. So this is how we, in all the countries, serve our VIVA coffee to stay. I don't want to change that in the future, even if it creates some costs, some effort. But this is the way how in Vienna the coffee is served when you go to a coffee shop. It's a very traditional way. It's something which is in our DNA and which is putting us ahead a bit of the competition.
Love it.
Talking about shop partnerships.
Yes.
We do shop partnerships. It's new in Western countries, I have to say. It's difficult to say what is a Western and what is an Eastern country. But it was always strongly locally driven, I can tell you. Yeah. So what you see here now is our latest development. It's a cooperation with Billa, which is the leading brand from REWE in several countries. So Billa was a success story. I don't know when they started, I think 60 years ago, was then bought by REWE some 20, 30 years ago, and is actually the brand in Austria and going east markets, so not in Germany. You won't find it there. Yeah? And there is a very good match and fit to VIVA from the customer point of view. And so we decided now to pilot as well a cooperation with them, still coming a bit with the problem being quite successful with the VIVA brand. And the problem starts, you know, with the feasibility then, because you have to beat that actually. So we are now in this pilot phase. We still need to adjust, you know, few things from the look and feel, from the pricing, from the assortment, but it's more or less there where we want to have it. And at the end, as you know, with these retail cooperation, it's always the customer who is the clear winner in that one, because customer will find a wider assortment, will find a fresher assortment, and get it for a bit of a more attractive price. At the end, it just needs to pay off for us as a company as well, for the dealer who is running the business. And this is still a proof which need to be done, but it looks quite good.
It does. I guess, given Gernot, just given the number of markets you operate across, I mean, you have to be selective in terms of the brands you partner with, because they're going to be different in different markets, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Beauty of that additionally in Austria is that we are in the same loyalty system. So there's a REWE loyalty system, which is incredible successful, by far the most successful program which exists. And it's called REWE, and we are in, and Billa is in. And so there is this synergy for the customers. This slide shows the Hungarian cooperation. The Hungarian cooperation is our oldest cooperation by far. It started 9 years ago. The SPAR Express system, because you know SPAR is having a huge footprint in Austria. So there's Billa and SPAR, which are actually having together the lion's share of the supermarket business. And SPAR is successful as well in Hungary. We were not successful with our shop and gastro business in Hungary 9 years ago. In general, the country was a bit in a problem economy-wise. So we said cost cutting and cash cow is not an option. So we invest in the country and we try something, which we did together with SPAR. And their model, SPAR Express, is very, very strict, I can tell you. So they insist on selling their own brands on supermarket price level. And even on the other brands, you're just allowed to add like 10% about. Yeah. So you need really to sell a lot to get the same margins at the end of the day and pay off the costs. It runs 24/7, which is very attractive for them as well, because in Hungary some regulations came as well into the market with closing down supermarket sites, you know, on Sundays and things like that. So this helped, and it turned out to be really, really successful. We have that already in 85 stores of our 200 store network, Hungary, and still slightly growing. But these formats you cannot do on all the sites, but on like 50% of the sites, it's definitely doable. As well here, by coincidence, we have the same loyalty system. This is a super shop there, which is even half owned by 50% OMV, 50% SPAR, already before the cooperation happened. So again, a nice synergy for the customers, you know, earning, burning points in the loyalty system in the same location, on fuel, on SPAR Express articles, and if they go to SPAR as well.
Makes sense.
A success story, I can tell you.
Yeah, yeah. Very impressive.
The Petrom Auchan story is again a bit of a different one. Romania is, for us, OMV, the strongest market when it comes to retail. We have there the strongest footprint. We're talking about 160 OMV sites and 392 Petrom filling stations. So it's big, and our market share is quite good as well.
Yeah.
And with OMV, we're very, very successful there with the brand Billa. With the brand VIVA. Yeah, when it comes to shop and to gastronomy business. So there's actually no real need to change that. People love it. Yeah. Petrom, on the other hand, is a value for money brand, which is successful as well.
Yeah.
Smaller sites, older sites, yeah, not that fancy. So we were simply looking for a certain cooperation as well to boost a bit the sales.
Yeah.
And this is what we found with Auchan. They were ready for this cooperation. They came with this My Auchan system, and thing is, it operates a bit differently. So it's more or less really that we handed over the operation to Auchan, where in the other corporations in Hungary and in Austria, we are more involved into it. But as well, real success story, more than 230 stations are already equipped with this My Auchan corporation and still growing.
Makes a lot of sense. So what about food service? I mean, and quality. I know that's a big focus.
That's absolutely true. VIVA's strength is actually food service, or gastronomy as we call it here. And for the last 2 decades, we constantly focused on qualitative and on quantitative growth in the categories. Categories, we're talking about sandwiches, bakery, hot beverages, and last but not least, hot snacks. In sandwiches, we're in countries quite benchmark, I can tell you. Competition is putting a lot of effort here as well, which is pretty much okay, because at the end of the day, as you know, it supports the whole industry and is boosting the industry in this giving the customer that certain message, hey, food on filling stations is absolutely okay. Yeah. Bakery is a smaller category and is differing strongly from country to country based on the limitations of the opening hours of the supermarkets, which is different.
Yeah.
Where the Western countries are quite strongly limited, the Eastern countries are more liberalized, and supermarkets actually open on Sundays as well. So it really depends, but as I said, smaller category itself. Hot beverages, which is, as you know, mainly coffee. Still there's growth potential. We are equipped with latest technology coffee machines. Some countries operate with semi-automatics. Some operate with full automatic machines. And we take a lot of care about the coffee bean. We had some experiences 10 years ago with branded coffee. Then we had another experiment with the coffee brand as well, which we had to stop after 3 years. And we took the decision really to focus on VIVA as a brand for coffee.
Yeah.
Created a good own brand on that one. Did this one, which you see here on the lower right part, is VIVA coffee. which is 80% Arabica, 20% Robusta, which is a very intense espresso. But on the other hand, for the milky products as well, intense to come through the milk. This is what the Robusta gives you. And what we do now for the last years is adding additional specialties. We started with Colombia, single origin, 100% Arabica, El Salvador, Guatemala now, which are, you know, having different flavors, which is really a specialty, and which is again boosting the category because you can show to the customers something different, you know, an alternative. Last category, hot snacks. Difficult. We tried to put it wherever is possible. It's a challenge, but here I definitely see the biggest potential for the future. And there is a certain really need that we are growing there as well.
Now, Gernot, I did a little research and I see that you have a very strong background in food service, to the point that I think you are a professional chef. You have a very deep interest in bakery, so I can see where your passion comes in on food service. Does that, do you feel that factors into this category for you personally?
Yeah, I mean, that's my personal background. Yes, I'm a pastry chef actually, and worked even abroad. Learned then in metro category management and shop business, let's say, and developed then in the mineral oil industry, really understanding the whole forecourt business. Yes, it's a certain passion, true. I love food, not just to eat. I really love to deal with it, to work with it, and yes, let's be honest. This is our big chance still to grow in this category.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a good point, isn't it, that Carolyn makes, and you're explaining, Gernot, because obviously, being a food guy is a food person is pretty important right now in the roadside retail sector, isn't it? So you know, so I'd say it's a good point to make as we think about creating food destinations, you know, more and more. So we're fascinated to see where we end up. So we're going to get into sort of a bit more detail in terms of some of the latest formats, but I think you're going to talk a little bit about your sustainability strategy in the business, which is we know is pretty important in the markets that you're in, particularly Austria, perhaps.
Yeah. It is very, very important, and we try to do whatever is possible in our field. We talk about sustainable energy. We have photovoltaics, as you see on the upper left picture. So we really use our full roof of the building to put photovoltaics, and the majority of the OMV stations in Austria is already equipped by that. Yeah. And this was even something which we did before the energy prices went through the roof, as happens now. And there is a huge energy saving on that, and it's really important to go into that one. Yeah. There are a lot of additional energy saving measures which we constantly go through. Already for 10 years, we equip the stations with LED lamps. We do smart temperature management on cooling heating units, recycling units on car wash, try now jet wash with cold water, and exchange heating systems to more modern one, to more effective one. Waste reduction is a big topic as well. We successfully tested already and are rolling out now recycling waste bins for the customers on all the sites. We have reusable, fully recyclable coffee cups, which is getting more and more as a system, not just in OMV. So it's not, you see the cup, it's not OMV branded. Yeah, it's an open system where other brands can jump on that as well, which we would appreciate. And we're not the only partner in that, which helps really to protect the environment. our own branded products, which we have in the shop, which are car care products and beverages, are built from or made out of recycled plastics, the bottles. So something which is really important for us. Yeah. Mobility, our premium fuels, Max Motion fuels, more effective than the base one. EcoMotion is something which we developed in the OMV group, which is really reducing the CO2 footprint by 20% because it's full of hydro-treated vegetable oil. So there's a lot, and there are these CO2 offsetting programs, which I saw a lot in Ireland, by the way, more than here, where we're in as well. EV charging, really the next big thing. As talked, we sent some guys to Oslo now to both tours to learn, because we're going now into to do it by ourselves, because we up to now had it just as third-party investments.
Yes.
It's a big topic for the future. And still a bit of hydrogen, which we see there's a strong need in industry and transport sector, mainly for heavy duty. Yeah.
No, I think that tees it up very well. Just, I mean, obviously, so we've got a good view of the business across multiple markets, the partnerships, your passion, and I guess the success that over the years the business has had in food, and you know, you're heading up retail in the Austrian market. What about some of the big challenges that we face around, you know, we're seeing on screen now some of the sort of areas that we can get into now, really thinking about digitization, automation, and how the relationship with customer service and delivering the proposition, the attractive proposition, giving them the customers that experience. I mean, and I think you're doing some interesting things here.
Digitalization is all over the place. Yeah, so it's I hear that word several times a day, and some examples are still these loyalty clubs where we had some countries which did not have it. We come up with that, and soon all countries will have it, because it's just a must to bind the customer via an loyalty system, which is then app-based as well. So we created now this new app, which is full of innovations, and which is really, really good. Comes now every month to a new country of us. We kicked it off first in Romania some weeks ago, and it's really a success story. People love it. Yeah. In addition, which you see on the right-hand side, is still these payment solutions. The upper one, you have this big screen, which is which we call wet and dry. It's a outdoor payment terminal where you can pay your fuel outside. On the other hand, order food already, which gets prepared while you're walking in. It's something which works on some stations. Still, I would call it a test, because investment is quite high, and you really need to get the customer there to use it properly. And as well, indoor self-checkout for shop products and for fuel is something which we're going to test. I have not seen too many success stories on that one in our industry, but I'm pretty sure it's a need on the long run, because of
interesting to see. Interesting to see you doing that. The outdoor payment terminals as well. Not so many people have done that globally. Obviously, we've seen a certain amount of trials in the US, but it's a really important thing to crack. And those self-checkout terminals inside look quite interesting because of how they're, I guess, how small they are, and located with room underneath for some confectionery snacking products as well. So that's pretty interesting. And what else, Gernot, in terms of what's next?
Our fast lane.
Yeah, well, we interviewed you about this back in, I think it was April. We published this. There was huge interest in this station. Tell us a bit about it.
This is what I see. What is next? We opened this first station. This is the first station. We have already some more, and we're really coming from the position having in Austria a successful A brand with all the services, and on the other hand, unmanned filling station network, more than 200 stations, where you get actually nothing but the two base fuel products. So very, very clear, separated. And the thing is, we just thought, is there something where we could merge these two worlds? Make the unmanned station, which is a brand, which is having the two premium fuels as well. And on the other hand, we need to offer some more services there for the customer. So is it for the car, which is just some air for the tires, screen wash liquids, lubricants, things like that.
Yeah.
But as well for the person, for the customer, food and beverage. And we did it with two partners, which is Bistrobox on the one side and Unibox on the other side. And I think it's, from design point of view, really nice. It's by the way a separate system. It's hard to see on that picture, but below that open shield there is actually a gate, so you can go to the Bistrobox in, and you will have an automated system, which is based on their one column, which is their pizza. It's a startup company with, I believe, quite a lot of funds which they received from some investors, because their technology is really outstanding. So they don't just, bake a pizza in a machine. This pizza is really, or the oven is full of information. So how old is the stored, the chilled pizza inside?
Well, I love this. Just going back to the previous picture for a second, just to make sure everybody understands. So we've seen a huge, in Europe, we've seen a lot of just walk out stores, frictionless stores, stores without checkout, and whatever the term is. But just to reiterate that you can, there's no staff in this store, in the bistro box or the Unibox, and you need to have an app, don't you, to enter the store. You need to download the app. Presumably it's the OMV app.
You don't need for the Bistrobox, you don't need an app. It's as said, it's automates. So it's vending machines.
Oh,
but
I
if
see.
you go to the blue side, there is a gate where you need to download the app. You register yourself, and then you can go in, shop. It's a normal shop.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's
or with the self-service cashier system, which is there as well. So
I see. So you, sorry to everyone who watching it will be wanting to answer these questions. So as a customer, I walk through the door on the left where it says 24-hour open, and then in the bistro box I can buy pizza or anything that's vended in the normal way. Although having said that, you can't often, there's not many places you can buy pizza this easily, Carolyn, are there? And as you go into a fuel, a roadside retail site, and then the wider Unibox offer is available with the app.
Correct.
And there's a kind of gateway between the two, which we can't quite see yet, but I've seen other photos of that.
It's a very slim line, which you see in the picture, which is actually a glass barrier.
I see. And what kind of ranges do you get in the Unibox part of the site?
The Unibox is designed more for food for later.
Right.
Yeah. So it's kind of divided. Bistrobox, food for now, and here in that picture you see that's actually food for later. And their strategy is that they're really selling on standard supermarket prices, which is quite attractive for the customer. On the other hand, as you know, needs then a certain amount of quantity which you need to put behind to make it feasible.
Very interesting. And that the product range, the partnership is with a different partner. It's not the same as the Bistro Box, is it? So Unibox, who's the partner there?
It's another company behind. In general, it's all managed by one franchise partner.
Right.
So there's one franchise partner which is having both franchise contracts for Bistro Box and for Unibox, operating some more sites from Bistro Box in the country or in the region, which have nothing to do with our forecourt, because this is a COCO system and
I see.
Anyway fully automated. So yeah.
Yes, yeah, I see. And how's it going? Can I just ask before we move on? How's it going? The fast lane site, which is in Linz, I think, isn't it, in Austria?
Yeah. We have some more already. It's from fuel perspective difficult to judge, I can tell you, due to the fact that the prices of fuel changed a lot in the last 12, 18 months. Yeah. So there was a huge increase, which for sure shifted the customer from one side to the other one. The Bistro Box is successful. They're happy because of this quite frictionless system. So because there is no entry system.
Yeah.
Unibox still struggles a bit because of that process that you need to download an app, register, which takes some minutes. I did it by myself. And if you know you will get a regular customer there, you'll do it. If you just, want to get in for buying 1 liter milk, you might say, no, too complicated for that. So this is still something which need to be optimized. It's always a question of how much security you put into that system. Because the more security, the more costs or friction you put in. Where on the other hand, the more open you are, like for example, it would be doable as well just to show the debit card. It's making it a bit more easier to misuse it, which is a certain risk as well.
Yes, very good. And this is an interesting chart. So you've got on the on one axis you've got high numbers of colleagues in the store, so high staffing model, and then I suppose the star on the horizontal axis is about standard of the site or standards of high customer service. Is that the?
It's services, it's quality, however you see it, yeah. But the pure Avanti site works. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. The OMV service station works as well. Nothing wrong with that as well in good locations. But whenever you find then stores where the location maybe is not more that attractive, with the strong increase of labor costs, and even more important than not availability of staff and labor, because if I'm honest, we cannot staff all the positions which we have in the countries, because people are just not ready to work, because work-life balance is more important for the upcoming generation, and this is something which we have to face. Yeah? So there is no unemployment in several countries, and it's very difficult to find staff as well. For the supermarket industry, by the way, it's the same. So we're all in the same boat.
Yes.
Sometimes we really have to reduce opening hours and cannot run a station 24/7 because we are lacking in staff, which we simply cannot find. And for that one, a fast lane is definitely a solution, because for sure from costs it's lean. The question is just, is it as attractive for the customer or not? Because I would not say that an unmanned station is that attractive than a manned station, because there is social interaction, there is a certain service level which you just can offer with a manned system. On the other hand, there are some locations where we have to think of, is it worth and the most profitable way to run it, man? But more important, can we upgrade some lean Avanti sites to that system as well? Can we give the customer something more service from the whole offer which we have? Which was not mentioned up to now was car wash. We will even run some unmanned car wash facilities on that site as well, because why not? It exists. We just have to add it to this system. So that will be the big question for the future. Will the customer accept it? I'm pretty sure it happens. It's just a question of time. And how do we communicate it to the customers?
Gernot, it's a problem. I don't have a problem. It's an issue worldwide, even over here in the United States, and we're still slowly moving along to some automated stores. I mean, we've had pay at the pump for many years here. So, you know, you look at a pay at the pump versus pay in the store, and they're pretty similar. You know, as far as I see it from a customer perspective. So, but we're still getting used to self-checkout, and you go to some of our bigger groceries and there's maybe 4 terminals and 15 manned, well, terminals that are for people, cashiers, but nobody's at them either, because it's just as hard to find labor here as well. So, I mean, it's a struggle worldwide, but I mean, it's nice. It's great to see that you have the ability and the, you can transition if you need to at any point. I mean, in most of these stores, and you're trialing it out in some, and you never know, you might have to roll it out at all of them. But you're moving along, and that's good, preparing for the future too.
I mean, I guess it's also interesting that you've got a range of different types of, you've got some flexibility in a way, in that you've already got a range of different brands and a range of different types of sites, including unmanned. And so, you know, you can use automation as an expansion, a business expansion tool in some of those unmanned sites, as well as a solution to the labor problem, which can get very severe. You know, if you're reducing opening hours, it's very severe, isn't it? And you need to come, as a business, you need to come up with a solution for that. From a customer perspective, you know, I think reading back through your article when we interviewed you some months back, you said that you know, you as a business, you're responding to a consumer need for ultra convenience and multiple product choices in locations. And I thought that was a really strong point, because from a customer point of view, in a small site, you're getting fresh pizza, you know, in 2 minutes, which tastes great. And you know, if you've been prepared to get the app, and let's face it, customers after a while are prepared to train themselves to do these things. And if there's something in it for them, you know, it's a rational decision. Then, you know, the customer experience with pizza and grocery shopping 24/7 in one location, pretty efficient from a space point of view, is quite exciting, isn't it? So you're going to get good customer scores, even though you haven't got a big labor component, you know. So I'd say, you know, I'd like to congratulate OMV for doing some exciting stuff, you know, and I think a lot of the rest of industry has been very interested in this, because everybody's grappling, as Carolyn said, everyone's grappling with the same problems. So, you know, I think fascinating.
I think people are still finding it fun too. I mean, I know I do. It's when you walk into whether it's an unmanned store or something, like the pizza concept that you mentioned, it's like, oh, I'm doing this myself. You can hit the buttons, you can get it started, you can do it yourself. And it's fun, it's interesting, it's new. And eventually, over a little bit, not even that much time, I think people will just accept it as reality. It'll be hard to go backwards, I think, or not backwards, I guess, the other direction again to the way it once was.
Yeah. Very good.
So thank you so much, Gernot. I learned a lot, and I loved seeing your smile when we started talking about food. So certainly keep up the work on that, and your automation. It'll be really interesting to see as your story unfolds over the next several years.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gernot.
Well, Dan, Gernot, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure learning about your stores And I look forward to our next segment. I'm going to please bring on Joe Bona, who is the president of Bona Design Labs, and Mike Zahajko, the executive vice president at CAF Outdoor Cleaning. Thank you for joining us. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thanks, Carolyn. Great to see you. Good to see you, Mike.
Hey, Joe.
So let's just jump right in. That was an amazing video by Gernot. We loved watching everything about him, learned a lot. And I really just want to get both of your takes. You're experts in this area on customer experience, retail, both in the United States and abroad. And so, Joe, let me just start with you. Gernot said something, and I wrote it down. Customers will always win as they seek out best value and experience. That really stuck with me. So what does that mean to you?
Well, one of the things that, I remember Gernot talking about was in Austria when they serve coffee, they have to serve it in ceramic cups. And he says, that might seem a little unusual, but he says that's the Austrian way. That's just the way that people expect it to be served. And so I think that's, in my view, that's really what customer experience and value is about. It's understanding who your customer is. It's providing those levels of detail of service and that they expect and that they'll get somewhere else if you don't do it. So I think from Gernot's example, I think they are really focused on elevating the customer experience and at a minimum doing things that are relevant to his market and not worried about what other people are doing in other markets. So, I thought that was a pretty good way of sort of summarizing, customer experience, at least for him in Austria.
That is such a difference from what we're used to here in the United States. I mean, could you imagine if you walked into a store and someone gave you a ceramic cup that would walk right out the door immediately, and someone have a nice collection in their house of ceramic cups they've collected? But I remember seeing the same thing in, I think it was in Madrid, Spain. This is many years ago, where I asked for it to go and they sat me down. They basically said no and said, that's not how we do that here. So it's just, it's understanding your customer and you're right. You've got to listen. I think that's an amazing take that you've had on that. Now, Mike, you come at that from a little bit of a different perspective. If a customer comes before they even walk in, I would imagine, into your lot or out of their car, you could really turn them off. The opposite, basically the same thing Joe said, if you're not really listening to them. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Gernot's comment was spot on. We saw a recent data study from NACS from 2022, came out just recently in May, and it actually looked at shoppers and consumers that are stopping at C-stores and said, what do they care about? Would they go to a store that has a better experience, or would they go somewhere to save 5 cents per gallon? And for the first time ever in this, and this is an annual survey that's been done for over a decade, consumers prefer to go to a customer experience. So they would choose experience over price. And so he's right. We need to keep both, but now experience is important. And I agree with you. It's that experience starts before you ever enter the doors. We talk about first impressions. The first impression you make with a customer is really as they're driving into your lot, as they're filling up their car, and then they're making that decision, do I go inside and have that amazing coffee or maybe not? And so you're spot on there. And I think, trying to figure out, well, what is that customer experience? Because it sounds like a very broad and vague thing. And so we did an interesting study. In the US, there's a lot of data about what do customers care about. Online reviews have been a thing, Google, GasBuddy, Yelp, for a long time. And the interesting thing is there's now GPS data from cell phones that lets you see what's the correlation, what's the foot traffic that's happening, and how does that correlate with what the reviews are for each of these locations. And so GasBuddy came out with a very interesting study. They've been doing it for years, their foot traffic report, and it showed here are the things that matter most. There's things like friendliness, customer experience with cleanliness, lighting, is their coffee good, what's their bathroom like? And by focusing on those areas, letting consumers review them, and then correlating that with foot traffic, I saw data that said a 21% increase. So if you're cleaner than the store next to you that's maybe at the bottom end of that spectrum, you'll get 21% more foot traffic, which to me is fascinating because in retail, I used to work at Tesoro. We try so hard to get a 5% or a 1% increase, and those customer experience really drive customers' behaviors. Now that was US. We looked at Europe, and for Europe, we didn't have that generic data that was out there, so we actually did the study. Anyone can do it themselves, go on at their store, Google it, and see what are customers saying about my location. And we did this for just about 2,000 sites across 18 countries in Europe. And fascinatingly, the number one thing that came up for them by far was friendly. So in order for them to get a 1-star or a 5-star experience, friendliness topped the chart. So what was their comments? And then the next one was food options, cleanliness, drink options, and then low fuel price. The other fascinating part was, well, what happens to get a 1-star? You know, we have great feedback, and most of it was, we found that an average score is right about a 4. So most customers are happy with their experience. But on the reverse side, well, why are they getting a 1-star experience? And unfriendly, top the charts, high fuel prices, bad bathrooms snuck in there. So maybe it's not a great way to win a customer, but it's definitely a way to lose a customer if you had a bad bathroom experience. Dirty, and then an initial one for Europe was slow speed. And I find that fascinating that, you know, with Gernot talking about their fast lane and the unmanned approach, I think that ties in very well to that too.
Yeah, that's for sure. Those are some great points. I know we have some articles on Global Convenience Store Focus that talk about specifically those studies too. So certainly check those out. Joe, what would with the slow speed one, that really caught me. What do you think about that from like a design perspective? We'll talk a little bit more about unmanned. And I mean, I think we just talked about coffee. So if you're sitting down and having a coffee or cappuccino or whatever, what do you think? How do you translate that to make that, I don't know, quicker?
Well, it depends. I think, you know, in Europe, you know, as Gernot said, that when you're sitting down and having a cup of coffee in a ceramic cup, that experience is the expectation is just different. It's not grabbing as in the US where, you know, give me the biggest coffee you can get, give it to me as fast as you can. I'm going to drink it in my car. And for them, it's all about taking a break in the day. Maybe you're sitting down with a family member or a friend or a business associate, and you're just taking a break, and it's intended to be a bit more relaxed. So, you know, I think you know, there's not a universal solution to all of these. I think it's just really, you know, as we said earlier, it's sort of understanding the markets and your customer, and then sort of responding with design appropriately. So obviously, you know, how does design influence some of that? Well, you know, obviously, if I'm in Austria, you know, maybe I need a more comfortable, you know, lounge area. It doesn't have to be, when I say lounge area, it's not a nightclub. We still want people to enjoy their coffee and get out or make other purchases, and we don't want to tie up limited parking spaces. But if that's part of the experience for drinking coffee, then you know, then you're going to have to pick suitable tables and chairs and maybe free Wi-Fi, you know, other things that make that having a coffee better. In the US, where it's just, you know, how quick can I get it? How big can I get it? And how fast can I get out of here? Then, you know, then you've got to be looking at, you know, how your layouts organized, how you get people through the space. You know, coffee to some degree in the US is almost like a production line. If you think of the way Ford, you know, made the you know, Model A's back in the day, everything moved along the line. Well, you know, coffee in the US is all built around getting people in and out in a hurry. So grab your cup, get your coffee, get your condiment, get to the checkout, and it's all about getting them, you know, through the process and out. So two different ways. No way is right, no way is wrong, but it's just sort of understanding where you are and the people, and then using design as a tool to make those experiences come to life.
Well, convenience and time are very tied together in our industry, especially, which, you know, now I'm going to bridge over. I just said I'd wait a little bit, but I'm going to go there right now with that unmanned store. So as we think about Fastlane or any of the unmanned stores, and especially those that are opening rapidly, at least here in the United States, and I know like Switzerland and whatnot, how could that function? And I'll throw this to Joe first, because I'm thinking, how does that function in terms of what we're looking at? So the culture, let's say Austria, is used to sitting down and maybe quickly getting through the line, purchasing and fueling up and everything, but then maybe relaxing. I mean, they're probably on the go as well. But now we have an unmanned store. It's, you know, 3 a.m. and 3 people are coming in from somewhere else. Maybe they just finished a shift at work. Since it's unmanned, we probably don't want them just hanging out in the store. Do you think that opens up design, you know, outside, seating outside? Like, how do you bridge the gap of speed as well as culture? And I guess I'm going to think about Austria for a minute, but, you know, even in the United States.
Well, if I'm going into 3 a.m, I'm probably going after that pizza that
Yeah.
was showing, and probably to help maybe get my head a little bit clearer at 3 in the morning. That's, I think this challenge of, I don't know if a lot of these unmanned solutions around the world are really built around the idea of speed, or are they built around the idea that we've got real serious labor issues? And maybe it's a combination of both, I'm not sure. But I think, in this country, I'm starting to see a little bit of a few cracks here and there with I'll call them unmanned. I don't know if you're familiar with Wegmans. I know maybe our European folks won't be familiar, but they're really one of the best supermarket chains in the US, small family-run business, outstanding company, and they just pulled back from unmanned experiments and self-checkout because of the theft. And obviously their business model is all built around service, really high levels of service. So, it probably doesn't really maybe fit their operating model either of just providing, great customer service. So, I don't know. I think, how do you get people who are used to having a casual break for a cup of coffee in an unmanned environment? And do you really want people hanging out inside the store? Probably not. So I don't know. I think if you're going to build a store that's unmanned, I think it's probably got to be really focused around speed and convenience and efficiencies. And that's got to be your primary, way of looking at it, and not try to maybe combine a high level of a service offering with something that's really intended to be about speed. So, maybe that's where you've got to separate some things and focus on one and just do that one thing really right. And I'm guessing that's going to be just really built for speed.
Yeah. Mike?
Well, I think the tricky thing is with the unmanned, as Joe and Gernot both said, labor. I mean, the reason why we're moving to that model, or in some cases that model fits well, is labor. And I think it's interesting of how do you manage to have that same level of customer experience without the labor? We saw in the data, the number one thing people wanted or felt to give a 5-star review for was friendly. Well, you can't greet them into a higher score or a better experience if you're at an unmanned location. You can't thank you for your business and build that connection. So I think really the connection is the experience. What are they seeing when they pull into the lot? What are they smelling when they pull into the lot? Is it smelling like diesel everywhere? Does that really entice them to go in to get some nice premium coffee? I think it's a challenge, but I really like to see how with different models. We work with a lot of like Ingo customers in throughout the Circle K's network, and they run the unmanned model, but there still needs to be someone going and attending. So they have attendants that go and visit those sites twice a day, and that's an important part of maintaining that experience. And Gernot said it too. It's not just about building a great asset; it's about how do you maintain it so it's a good experience all the time. And I think that's the struggle that they'll have too: is how do they maintain that experience without someone there to freshen it up and greet their customers. So finding that model to incorporate labor because it's required, but do in a way that gives the customer what they need when they need it.
Well, and I think, I've been to Amazon Go, and there's usually people, a lot of people, not a lot, several people, whether they're stocking shelves, just greeting you, making sure you know how to use the technology to get in and out. So it's almost a hybrid model, and it is interesting on the unmanned section. I can imagine possibly a pizza fight breaking out inside, a little bit of a food fight in some circumstances, depending on how late it is. But it will be interesting to watch because, like you said, Joe, there's bound to be cracks in the system depending on whose it is. So it's what 3, 5. You do my math, 5, 6 years old at this point. So, in another 10 years, it'll be just standard, I guess, when we start getting used to self-checkout versus completely unmanned. I mean, how many times have you been to a vending machine and it doesn't give you what you want? And you see someone maybe it's only in America, but like literally abusing the vending machine, tipping it upside down, trying to get their candy bar out of it. So you can't do that to a store, but I think there's got to be somebody attending to it to make sure it's clean and friendly.
Yeah, I think at some point it'll be, there'll be, as you said, it's a hybrid approach. It may not be either or. There'll have to be some way of integrating a bit of customer service, whatever that is. I thought Mike's statistics were really great. I mean, the number one thing on the positive and negative side was built around service. So if those are legitimate, concerns that customers have on their mind, then, ignoring the number one issue seems to be maybe not a way to, not something you should walk away from. But yeah, I think at some point it's going to be, how do you take the best of both worlds and just try to find the right solution? What's that happy medium?
I think the fascinating thing is the way we're going to find out is, I think Hank Armour says it best. He shares a quote about how the future is here now, it's just unevenly distributed. And so basically these best programs, I mean, Joe, as you help them do design everywhere, you see that certain designs fit great for a market, but the whole market might move that direction. You look at like fast pay and everything that's happening in Asia. I think most of the world is going to eventually move that direction. You look at the importance in America about fuel. The C-stores are dominated by fuel for so long. Now they're moving to that gastronomy and food destination, but the fuel experience has to be great. Europe, man, they have a great deli selection. Like you go in there and you get just as great of food as you get at any one of these small delis, or Austrian stopping there to get coffee just as good as a coffee shop. So I think the future's out there, and I think those best practices we'll see already happening in some markets that maybe already needed it, and then the rest of the world will adapt, and those will be the ones that win.
Yeah. And Joe, just like you said, it depends on the culture of where you are, of what you're going to offer. So make sure you look around and make sure that, market test it a little bit too. I'm sure before you roll something out. So gentlemen, thank you. That's all the time we have for today, but I really appreciate you taking the time with me. And thank you for watching Shop Talk Live.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you, Carolyn.